Hey cellists, a viewer recently commented that they'd like to see a video about fast playing, and especially about trying to synchronize the left and the right hand. The first thing I'd like to say about that is you should keep in mind that no matter how good of a player you are, everybody has a limit, a speed limit they get to that they can't play any faster. And if you're a professional, that speed limit has to be pretty high. But if you've been playing for a couple of years and you find that you reached that threshold too soon and you just can't play some of the fast passages that you want to play for your solo pieces or in an orchestra, that's pretty frustrating. So in this video, I'm going to try to give you some suggestions for you to get that threshold up to where you want it to be. I'm going to just give an overall view of this issue. Then I'm going to break it down into a few specific troubleshooting ideas. And then at the end, I have some practice tips, some practice techniques used by professionals that can help you, especially when you're learning fast passages. So when students complain about not being able to play fast enough, what they usually are experiencing is tightness, and the tightness prevents them from being able to play any faster than they're playing. So what's really happening is you may be experiencing it in your hands or in your arm or in your neck, but it really starts in your brain. Your brain is not able to coordinate the, for example, back and forth motion of the elbow or the up and down motion of the fingers. And then you start to get mixed signals. Muscles start to try to work against each other, and that's where you feel tight and you just can't play any faster. So the solution to that is, first of all, scales. If you're not already practicing scales every day with a metronome, then I strongly urge you to do that. I plan to make some videos in the future dedicated to how to practice scales, but I'll talk about it just a little bit today in terms of trying to increase the speed that you can play. And the basic idea about using scales and a metronome to increase your speed is that you just find a speed. Let's say you're going to do 16th notes with a quarter note beat, and you're going to find a speed that you can play comfortably. So not squeezing, you feel like you can coordinate everything. And it may be a lot slower than you are hoping, where you really feel in control, but you got to be honest with yourself about that. And then you're just going to take your metronome, go up maybe 1 or 2 notches and do it again. And you keep going. When you get to the place where you feel tension coming in, maybe starting to press your fingers or some tension in your shoulder or wherever you're feeling it, our instinct is going to be to say, well, I'm still able to do it, and try to go a little faster and a little faster, but try not to do that. Try to stay at that point where the tension first creeps in and try to see if you can get that tension out. Otherwise, what you'll be doing is carrying that tension with you to the next speed and the next speed, and it's going to just build, and pretty soon you just won't be able to play faster. But if you can try to get to each next level and keep that tension away, you will see that that will help you make a lot more progress. Another good thing about using the metronome is that you'll be able to chart your progress. And keep in mind that if you can try to just get a little bit faster, even just 1 click faster every day, after a few weeks, I think you'll really notice a difference, less tension and more velocity that you can reach. And keep in mind also that some days you won't be able to go as fast as you did the day before. The progress is always a little bit up and down like that. But if you really stick with this and are really thoughtful about your scale practice, I really think that is going to be a big factor in helping you be able to play faster. So one of the maybe obvious but overlooked methods for dealing with the tension that we all suffer from somewhat from our practicing is stretching. I always try to do a little stretching before I practice, and when I'm taking breaks from practicing, I like to stretch my hands or do some neck stretches or some forward folds. But whatever feels good for you, I think that's a really good way to release some of the tension that you might have in your muscles and help prevent injury and help you along your path to trying to increase the speed that you can play comfortably. All right, so now I want to just talk about the main specific problems that could be making it hard for you to play fast enough. So let's say you're trying to play this Vivaldi E minor sonata. That's one that students often have trouble getting it up to the tempo that it really should be. So first of all, try to figure out if you're having a left-hand problem or a right-hand problem. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, but check to make sure that you're not tightening your arm so that your arm can move freely back and forth. And then look at string crossings. So for example, this has a lot of string crossings. So you might want to do some string crossing exercises to make sure the string crossings are not late. And another thing that might contribute to that is that you're crossing from too far. So the hair is too far away from the next string. Now let's talk about the left hand. There's several things that can be issues with the left hand. And the first one, number one, is probably pressing too hard with the fingers. So let's talk about good finger action. Our hand is designed with an opposable thumb and to do this. But for playing the cello, that doesn't really help us because that creates this tiny circle here that's very inflexible. And we want to think about a bigger circle that goes from your shoulder all the way around to the tips of your fingers. So really monitor your thumb, make sure that it's not pressing too hard. I always also try to teach my students, instead of doing a straight up and down motion with the fingers like this, to move with a little bit of a plucking motion. And to find out a little bit more about this, you should look at my video called Trill Drills for Cello. And I really go into a lot more detail about this finger action that will really help your velocity in your playing. Also watch out that your fingers are not lifted too high. If they're too high, that could cause them to be late getting down when it's time for them to go down. So those are some things with the left hand. Now let's talk about shifting. This is a big issue if you're playing a passage that has shifting. Let's say you're on this part of the Vivaldi. You've got some big shifts there, and the number one problem with that is you're just going to start the shift too late. And as you're practicing slowly, you want to practice in a little bit earlier timing of the shift. So I want to be getting the shift going sooner so that I'm not late with that note. For more specific information about shifting, look at my video called Clean Shifting for the Cello. And that will give you some really more detailed look about how to make your shifting better. So those are some basic things to look out for: not pressing, good string crossings, watch out for your shifting. Those should be helpful if you pay attention to that kind of thing. And now I want to show you a few practice techniques. These are things that professionals would use when we're practicing fast passages and trying to learn them quickly. Let's say you're working on something like, this is a good example from Hofner Symphony, from Mozart Hofner Symphony, which is going to be hard to get. So obviously using a metronome to accelerate, go slowly, and little by little go faster. But a few others that can be useful. One I call fragments, and that would just be doing, I would do it with a metronome so you can hear how this sounds. And you can do 4-note groups. So I'm just letting one click go by after every 4 notes. And in that extra click, I'm just trying to make sure that I release any extra tension in my hand. And you'll see if you practice this way, you can obviously play a lot faster than you could if you did it all together, because the tension is not building up in your hand and you're having a chance to release it. After you do groups of 4, maybe do 8, click, like that. And you'll see that then you'll be able to kind of learn how it feels to not be tense and then take out those extra beats. Another way is doing some rhythms. This is what some people call this the half-fast method. So you're going to do, let's say this were 16th notes, you'll do 2 8ths and 2 16ths. In other words, so you're going just half the notes are fast and half are not. And then you want to flip it around, so then it's going to be the fast ones. Especially for things that have, 4 groupings of 4, this can be really, really useful. Another way, we did the half-fast way. Sometimes it can be useful to practice in just some rhythms, maybe a dotted rhythm, so like a dotted 8th, 16th. And then of course you'll flip it around like this. So those can be some techniques to practice. Another technique that I use a lot is what I call add a note practice. I think this is really useful. Let's go back to that little bit of the Vivaldi sonata to talk about this. So add a note practice would be, I'll do a few notes. So maybe I want to just stop there and see if I got that G sharp in tune. And once I'm happy with that, some notes you'll be able to just immediately go on. And then maybe when you get to, that will be a note you'll want to stop on and just do a few more repetitions. And this way, it can help you pinpoint exactly where the problem is and then work on that specific problem. So you're not just practicing the whole thing over and over again. You can really narrow down where the problem is and really fix it. So keep practicing your scales every day with your metronome. Try out some of these practice techniques that I suggested. And I really think that over time, you will really be able to improve your ability to play fast passages with more ease.